Coming up in less than 2 weeks, the National Wrestling Alliance, the oldest brand in professional wrestling, celebrates 75 years with their monumental event, NWA 75, coming up Saturday and Sunday, August 26th, 27th, in the Coruscant Ballroom at the Chase Park Plaza Hotel in St. Louis. Tickets available via nwatix.com. If you can't be there, join the event on Fight TV. And to help me discuss that event and all things National Wrestling Alliance, joining me on the hotline, he is the owner and president of the National Wrestling Alliance, and he's the lead singer for one of the great rock bands in our generation, the Smashing Pumpkins. It is Billy Corgan. Billy, good morning. How are you, sir?
Well, I played in Albuquerque last night. I think we did about 12,000 people last night playing with Interpol and Rival Sons. And then I jumped in the car and started driving east towards Dallas. So I'm a little loopy, but hopefully my brain will make some sense to everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. The tour's going well, I would assume.
It's unbelievable. It's crazy. Every show we've done so far is packed, and really a lot of young people coming to see the band now, which is wild because, of course, when you're young and you're playing and, you expect to see young people because that's your time. And then everybody, I think, goes through it. You go through this transitional phase where people start to have kids, life changes, the business changes. Certainly, we went through, of course, Napster and all the illegal downloading of music. Music business barely survived that whole period. And so to come out the other side where in many ways the band's bigger than ever is pretty crazy to us, but it's fantastic because, we've been doing this I think we started the band about 36 years ago now. So it hasn't always been a straight road, but it's amazing to be here now. And then to see the success of the NWA alongside that, at times often in spite of the music stuff, because wrestling fans, of course, are focused on wrestling. I think some of them appreciate what my day job is, but for the most part, they're focused on whether or not the NWA can give them the kind of wrestling that they appreciate, particularly even in 2023. And that's been its own kind of battle here and there. But I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish here. And of course, 75 years is such a crazy thing to be a part of. 75 years of continuous titles is really something.
It really is. By the way, Smashing Pumpkins, Tuesday night, they will be at the Dos Equis Pavilion at Fair Park in Dallas. Wednesday night, Walmart Amphitheater in Rogers, Arkansas. Thursday, Orion Amphitheater in Huntsville, Alabama. You see those dates and more. SmashingPumpkins.com. Let me ask you bought the NWA in October 2017. What's the biggest lesson that you have learned running the NWA since then?
I think the first thing that struck me was, despite its incredible legacy, wrestling fans are very focused on what's happening today in wrestling. They love history, and of course, many really do appreciate where the NWA came from and what the NWA represents. But you're in a very competitive market, mostly for young people. If you look at oftentimes the successes where AEW or WWE point to their ratings, it's very much about the demo. They oftentimes talk about and advertise the young demo. So it really behooves you to not get lost in the sauce as far as saying, hey, it's the NWA, and people go, yeah, but what are we doing today? Like what's happening right now? So that was a little not shocking, but more surprising than I would have imagined, because anytime you talk to people who know wrestling, they're like, wow, the NWA, that really means something. Mm-hmm. But making a product for 2023, I think, was the biggest thing. Everything else, I think, there's a lot of comparable aspects to what I went through in music and what I'm trying to do with the NWA. So the steps along the way haven't surprised me. I'd say that's pretty much it.
Well, and that's the thing, again, and you and I are around the same age. So, like you said, the NWA is such a long legacy. That's the first title I knew, and I would go back, my first exposure watching Harley Race as the world champion and seeing what Ric Flair did. And of course, I remember vividly the battle at Texas Stadium with Kerry Von Erich, and it was such a fantastic era. Uh, you touched a little bit on it, but look at the health of the wrestling business as a whole, and of course NWA in particular right now. And it feels like, especially coming out of the pandemic, and pandemic, it shut, closed everything down. It's paused a lot of folks, and there's a lot of worry about how the wrestling business would survive. Well, now in August 2023, it feels like not only has survived, but it has thrived. Just for a second. You're a student of the wrestling business for sure. Just talk a little bit about the health of the wrestling business in general, and specifically about the NWA.
That's a great question. I think oftentimes people focus on the drama, but I think they miss the real point, which is that wrestling's greatest era is probably yet to come. Talk about myself for a second, then I'll talk about the wider thing. When I bought the NWA, having gone through what I went through and trying to buy TNA, and there was legal stuff that went on. I think I've been in professional wrestling behind the scenes, I think going on about 11 years now. I certainly have had a lot of people question my sanity, from the Wall Street Journal and Rolling Stone on down. And of course, family and friends, as lots of people like to say, like, hey, you have a pretty robust musical life. How does this work? Or is it something you really want to do? And I oftentimes would point and say, look, this is a growth business. You may not see it now. So this is going back 5-6 years, obviously, or even more when I tried to buy TNA. Now with the sale of WWE to Endeavor, aligning to form what will be a new company, I think they're going to rename it. But with UFC and WWE under the same roof, people are really starting to see, like, wow, there's this whole other level that wrestling has never touched, which is hard to believe considering how successful the McMahons have been. And then with Tony entering the market and really doing, what many people thought was impossible, which is to create a brand that is competitive against WWE's kind of hegemony over the business. I think that shows you, as I like to say, it's a poor analogy, but I am tired here in the morning. If you have a great band, whether it's, the Rolling Stones or Metallica, there's always room for another great band. Fans will support greatness. You just have to go out and build it. So I think my case, even though we're still, the little engine that could and trying to pull ourselves up the hill, I think my case has been made by what Tony has done and what Vince has done over the last 5 or 6 years to say, look, there's this whole other thing over this hill. And if we get there and you get the global market engaged, we'll be looking at numbers for wrestling that will boggle the mind.
Yeah, I tell you what, like I said, it's amazing to watch. And I work in independent wrestling here in Austin, and even our independent shows feel like they're almost stronger than they were before the pandemic. So it's encouraging, and I'm excited to see what happens in the future. Let's talk a little NWA 75 coming up in a couple weeks. The world title will be on the line. Tyrus is going to defend the 10 pounds gold against EC3. And EC3, and I've known EC3 for a little while. EC3 seems focused on, for lack of better term, carving his own path in wrestling. Tyrus has been a formidable champion for sure. But this is going to be a huge test. EC3, no stranger to world titles, won 2 of them in Impact. But this is going to be a fun match to watch for sure, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things at play. First off, Tyrus is pretty serious about, he's kind of towards the end of this thing. So when he's talking about retirement, he's serious here. He really feels if he can't be at the top, then he's pretty much proven anything he's going to prove in this business,
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly he's accomplished everything he's ever set out to do, including becoming the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. EC3, when I was at TNA in the office, EC3 was the guy. He was the guy that we had tabbed as, if this company's ever going to go anywhere, it's going to be on the back of, Michael Hutter here.
Mm-hmm.
So, since that time, leaving, of course, TNA, going back to WWE and having another frustrating run. So if you look at both men, and particularly their own personal relationship, and of course they work together a lot, in TNA. And I think they even go back to WWE developmental days. I mean, they go back really, their careers are kind of meshed in many ways. Tyrus being EC3's bodyguard and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You see it on a personal level, you see it on a professional level, where sometimes in the right moment, you'll see two men push each other to a place I don't think they knew they could go. And that's where that blurry line is like where their friendship stops at the ring ropes, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of compelling layers here that I think are really fascinating. So you add that to the 75th anniversary. Of course, Tyrus's ability, he just had EC3 on Fox the other day, speaking to millions of people about NWA 75. I mean, you know, we're entering a new era here of opportunity. And, you know, obviously I have the ability to go talk about the NWA in places where most people don't really want to talk about wrestling, quite honestly. And they take that more credibly these days because of the success of the NWA and, of course, these other things that I've been talking about. So you have a lot of things converging here. So it feels like the right moment in time. And then, of course, Tyrus really, you know, I think in tribute to Dusty, his great mentor, he wanted to make this a bull rope match. I think he wanted to say, look, if we're going to go here, we're going to put my career on the line, and we're going to push each other to the absolute limit so that whoever walks out of the ring champion will legitimately be the world champion.
Yeah. I tell you, and yeah, making a bull rope match like you mentioned in tribute to the American Dream. I'm here in Austin. This is where the Rhodes name was born, and I work with Dustin Rhodes at his wrestling school quite a bit, and count him as a dear friend. And a bull rope match, just it's a different kind of match for sure. It should be brutal, but it should be very entertaining. You look at the Women's World Championship, Camille has had a stranglehold on that title for almost, we're getting 2.5 years at least. I mean, she's going to be, you know, by the time she's finished, she's going to be up there with the legends, you know, whether you talk about Mildred Burks or even Jazz in recent memory. She's going to defend that title against Natalia Markova. It's been fascinating to watch kind of the evolution, I guess, of Camille going from, you know, Nick Aldis's bodyguard to now she is, you know, one of the most tenured champions in all of wrestling.
Yeah, her journey alone, you know, she was basically retired or semi-retired out of wrestling, had also kind of been washed out of the WWE system. An absolute physical specimen, former Division I college athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I took one look at her and I said, this person has the goods. Do they have the mental and personal makeup to be a champion? And I think that's proven to be. She's proven that bet about 500 times over. Now, what's interesting is, you know, she likes to complain, and that's fine. If you're the champion, you can kind of say what you want. But she's been out there complaining because she feels like she's beaten Markova before. And I told her straight up, she said, why are we having this match? I said, because I think this person has your number. Markova is probably the most dangerous female wrestler on the planet right now. Her striking, you have to almost see it in person. She might be the most physical female wrestler I've ever seen. And I'm putting her up there with people who are friends of mine like Natty Neidhart. You know, we're talking about real physical, raw power. And, you know, Camille's thing is like, so I got to face somebody I've already beat because you think she has the best chance of beating me. And I said, yeah, straight up. Because, you know, the one thing about being champion, and people don't, of course, don't see it unless you're really behind the scenes, is there's a real grind on the talent. There's a pressure that goes with being champion. You know, if you think of somebody like Conor McGregor, was almost always better in the chase than he was in holding the title. Something about the pressure of the title seemed to get to him. It was almost like too much weight on his shoulders. But maybe I'm wrong about that. That was just me observationally as a fan, right? Certainly one of the greatest UFC champions ever. So there's no shade in that. But what I'm saying is, being a champion puts a different sort of, like when you walk through the ropes, you're expected to win. It's no surprise when you win. You know, she likes to call herself the one-time champion, as in the fact that no one will ever beat her, and she's going to go down as an unbeaten champion. So I'm like, okay, I look through the company, and I certainly look at the available talent in the independent circuit, and I'm like, this person, out of all the people, I think has the best chance to take her title. And I think that's compelling, because here's the one thing, you know, the two women have faced each other about 2 or 3 times in the ring. It's the most physical matches I've seen Camille have. And that's saying something. Camille's 5'10". and jacked. You know what I mean? So for another woman to push her to the limit, it takes a certain particular talent, and that talent is Natalia Markova.
Yeah, it's going. I mean, like I said, it's going to be a fantastic match. If Camille gets past Natalia, she is definitely cementing her legacy and definitely on her way, like I said, to becoming a legendary champion.
But here's the thing, and this is part of her complaint.
Mm-hmm.
The way we set this thing up when we brought the anniversary shows back at the Chase is we do a gauntlet on the night one. So whoever wins the gauntlet faces the champ night two. So even if Camille gets past Markova, she has to face the winner of the gauntlet. And she's now done that successfully 2 times. So this would be a 3rd time. And let me tell you, if you go through Markova, and that's a big if she goes through Markova, now she's got to face somebody coming out of that gauntlet night one and put it on the line again.
Yeah.
But what I like about that is if you can survive that, and she has twice, your reputation goes up exponentially after that.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, that gauntlet's going to be fantastic on night one. A match that was added in the last several days, and this is one I have a personal connection with, Tim Storm and Jack Stane. Now, these two men, they've had a rivalry going back before you bought the company.
Yes, sir.
I know both men. I count both men as friends. I've called matches with both of them. When they held the 10 pounds of gold, when they were the world champion. This is, they have circled each other for as long as I know. And like I said, I know these two men pretty well. But let's just talk for a second about this rivalry that seems to just pop up every now and again. And Jax gets that itch and decides he wants to tangle with Tim Storm again.
Well, look, on paper, Jax is the more celebrated champion. I mean, Jax has basically held every title you can hold in the NWA.
Mm-hmm.
And Jax has been on maybe the best run of his career here in the last couple of years. And he looks across the room and there's Tim Storm, beloved, babyface. Everybody loves Tim Storm. Of course, Tim, mostly known to NWA fans these days as the color announcer for our broadcasting.
Right.
And, I asked him recently, I said, are you planning on retiring at some point? Is that in your future? And he said, I'm never going to retire. So, it's a little bit of that, Lion King type of thing. Jax looks across and says, if Tim's still here, but he's in a nice purple suit over there, earning his money, basically flapping his jaws. Well, Jax wants to say, if you're still going to be on the field, you've got to go through Jack Stane. And I think Jax sees Tim as prey. He's not wrestling a lot these days. And so I think there's kind of something for both to prove. I think in Jax's case, he doesn't want his name uttered after Tim's. And Tim, he's old school. You challenge his pride. Tim is the nicest guy in the world. He truly is that guy, the guy you see on the NWA program. And of course, that is Tim Storm. He's not working. That is the man. But you get under his skin, and Jax has a way of getting under skin. You see that, I call it Dark Tim Storm. Out comes Dark Tim Storm, like
mm-hmm.
the shadier side of Tim Storm. And it is in there.
I've seen that side too.
Yes, sir. So I think this is compelling. And look, it's NWA 75. You got 2 former NWA World Heavyweight Champions.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a title match, but there's something, sometimes, I don't want to say there's something greater than title, but sometimes there's something equal to title, which is pride. And for these men, they're not 32 anymore. Pride is something that really, really means something to them, and how the fans see them when they walk through the curtain. And Jax is hell-bent on making sure that when he leaves, and it ain't anytime soon, his name will come before a lot of other people's names.
You're absolutely right. And let's not forget, Tim Storm's the one that took the title from Jax in 2016 in Sherman.
Yes,
so,
sir. I
remember that. I remember that night, and it was a bit of a shocker. I was happy for Tim. I was a little sad for Jax, but yeah. So I know that's got to be. I know that's got to be under the skin of Jack Stane. That's going to be a great match. All in all, a fantastic card. I've talked to Colby Carino about his challenging Kerry Morton for the World Junior Heavyweight Championship. Talked to the Country Gentlemen. They're looking forward to defending those U.S. Tag Team titles. All in all, just a fantastic event. The NWA 75, Saturday and Sunday, August 26th, 27th, at the Chase Park Plaza Hotel in St. Louis. Tickets are available at NWATIX.com. If you can't be there, make sure you get the event on Fight TV. Billy Corgan, the president and owner of the National Wrestling Alliance. Billy, I appreciate the time. All the best to you. All the best to the Smashing Pumpkins as they continue touring. Again, smashingpumpkins.com. See those tour dates. Billy, thanks so much for your time, and hope to talk to you again soon. Good, best of luck on NWA 75.
Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure talking to you today. Thanks for your time.